Hello, good evening, and welcome back. The authoritarian net tightens. There are some things that you're not allowed to see that are too divisive, obtrusive, too undermining of our society, that the fact that you might lay eyes on them will just radicalize you instantly. And so, with that in mind, the government is moving to ban junk food adverts because people can't handle it. But the reasoning for this, I shit you not, is because Boris Johnson found himself overweight. And so his response, instead of thinking, maybe I should do something about that, I should pay more attention to what I'm eating and be more informed and see more information and then make wiser decisions and live a healthier lifestyle. No, it's just, oh well, I've had a bit of difficulty with this, therefore everybody else must suffer as well. Okay, a little bit concerned there, but let's jump in. Kellogg's and Britvic Attack plan to ban junk food ads online. Well, I mean, of course they do. I mean, they are trying to show support, but that's basically just big companies, including Mars, saying, hey, slow down there. It's like, yeah, sure, do stop our competition, but let's just make sure that you're going to allow us first. That's what they're doing. It almost reminds me of the ban on tobacco advertising about 20 years ago now, that the idea was, it's going to reduce consumption. And sure, it has. Except the revenue for the tobacco companies has still increased. Because if you ban any form of advertising, it means that they're no longer having to advertise at all. They're no longer having to beat their competition for advertising at all. That now, if you consider how much is spent on advertising, that you just saved them all that budget. And it really is that straightforward. That if you say, well, you can't advertise, sure, it might be difficult for a new tobacco company to get in the market, but for the well-established ones, they're more than happy. They already know that they've got brand recognition from a while back, and that is still seeping through, and that's well known. So yeah, that's still going to carry on for them. But this one in particular. So some of the UK's biggest food companies have attacked a plan that could see all online junk food advertising banned to tackle childhood obesity. Yeah, apparently more information isn't the answer. Less information is the answer. Just restrict what people can see, and you got to trust the government that they definitely know what they're doing. You know, the food pyramid that was designed to put carbs and grains at the bottom. Yeah, you can eat as much of them as you want, but you shouldn't have much meat, and red meat is definitely bad for you. Yeah, you know that same one that has led to skyrocketing rates of obesity and coronary heart disease from poor diet. Yeah, apparently it definitely wasn't a mistake, because government can't be wrong, and so they're definitely going to get it right this time. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that the whole world of diet is far too individualistic. There we are. Down to the individual and their differences. So just trying to have a sweeping ban like this, it ain't really going to work. And I know that you might be saying, but hey, Wasp, how can you possibly say that showing sugar is okay? Surely like something like a sugar tax makes sense, because you've got an NHS, and therefore if you're falling ill because of your life decisions, if we know that those life decisions are bad, then we should increase the tax on them, just like with alcohol and cigarettes or tobacco. Well, no, because the NHS should be gone in the first instance. But let's just throw that frame right out the window. But they say, in a letter to the Prime Minister, bosses of firms including Britvic, Kellogg's and Mars said they supported government efforts to tackle obesity, but they said the plans were disproportionate and lacked evidence. The government has said it is determined to help children and families make healthier choices. It originally planned to ban online adverts and TV commercials for unhealthy foods that appeared before 9 p.m, but strengthened this in November. The Prime Minister was said to have changed course after being hospitalised with COVID-19, something he links to being overweight. Yes, and he could just be more responsible for that himself. Also, the idea of banning the TV adverts. Now, which do we think is worse? Children seeing advertisements on television that showcase unhealthy foods, or the fact that children are sitting in front of a television so much in the first place? Because I would have thought you want to go to the root cause of the problem. And it's not down to what is on the television. It is down to the fact that they are sitting in front of the television. If you wish for more activity, then do more activity. But that might mean that people are going to have to go outside. Oh yeah, I know. And have access to exercise. I know. What a radical thought. Wow. And it might also mean that being cooped up in a classroom all day and not running around outside and exercising isn't a very good plan. And you might also think that, hang on a minute, if the government is in control of the education system, which it bloody well is, then why are they doing such a shit job? Which is also linked with, if the government is in control of the education system, then why do we need a minimum wage law to insist that people are worth more than £5.53 an hour? How come you can spend, 15 to 20 years going through government-run education and be worth less than £5.53 an hour? How is that possible? Maybe we should address the root cause there instead. But again, so they say, the proposal, which is still under consultation, could usher in some of the toughest digital marketing restrictions in the world by the end of 2022. Firms will not be able to promote foods high in fat, salt, or sugar in Facebook ads, paid research results on Google, text promotions, and posts on platforms such as Twitter and Instagram. So if you want a ketogenic diet, which a lot of people are having a lot of success with, you're not allowed to suggest that. If you've got your keto bombs, for example, and you're trying to sell them in order to help people get into ketosis and develop ketones instead of relying on glucose and glycogen, I'm afraid not. No, apparently you're unhealthy. The ketogenic diet has been ruled state mandate, not okay. Right. Salt. Salt is clearly also bad. You know the country that consumes the most amount of salt? Japan. You know the country with the highest life expectancy? Japan. Oh, it might not be so clear-cut, but that's a shame. Or sugar. And of course the way around that is to use things like aspartame, for example. So I think that one, although sure, yeah, I agree with it. It's more addictive than cocaine. One, that's why it should be banned in the first place. And secondarily, there are ways around this. There are always ways around this. If you're trying to ban the message from being put out, then there's going to be a subversive way in order to get the message out. It is very similar to limiting speech of anything, that, this certain topic can't be talked about. Okay, well, then there are going to be other words used and people are going to speak in code and you're just going to drive it underground and not know where it's gone. Similar thing here. Sugar is really, really bad. Right. Aspartame. Oh, that's fine, yeah. Curious. Very curious. And I'm not talking about the cancer from aspartame from the mice studies, because they had to use far too much to cause cancers. Ridiculous amounts. As in, you couldn't even consume this amount if you tried levels of aspartame. But nonetheless, they're going to find other chemical ways around it. Stevia, of course. or just regular old honey, which might not be so bad. But there are always going to be ways around it. Should the government have this level of control? No, of course they bloody shouldn't. And what are they going to decide is unhealthy next, that you can't do? Curious. Or is this, of course, just to decide, well, yeah, we're going to slowly wean you onto veganism because we've decided that meat isn't good, because, don't you know that if you eat meat, then you increase testosterone, and therefore you're less peaceful and more likely to have fighting spirit, and we don't want that because it makes people harder to control. So, the letter, which has been signed by 800 food and drink manufacturers and 3,000 UK brands, said food companies have not been given enough time to submit detailed objections. The UK government is quite correctly committed to evidence-based policy making. However, the evidence base underpinning these proposals is lacking in both detail and efficacy. Additionally, there is still no agreed definition of which foods the government is including in these proposals. They are so broad, they even capture family favourites from chocolate to peanut butter to sausage rolls. Which is true. It's utterly ridiculous. But it gets worse. Because, as they point out, that what about the smaller businesses, which make up 96% of the industry, as they say? That the example they use is it really the government's intention that a local wedding cake business, for example, will not be able to share product details on its Instagram account in order to grow its sales? Because apparently yes. Or is it then going to be, well, okay, it's going to be a different ruling for different size companies, that if you're this size, then it's a different rule, and if you're this size, it's a different rule, in order to try and, quote, even the playing field? So, well, you don't have to. Surely equal opportunities just dictate that. If you get rid of the lobbying advantages, then you wouldn't need to make these other laws. You just get rid of the original ones, and then you'd be fine. That's the state of play. That it's decided, as say spokesman for the Department of Health and Social Care said, we've committed to restricting HFSS adverts for products high in fat, sugar, and salt on television before 9 p.m. But we also need to go further to address how children can be influenced online by adverts promoting unhealthy foods. Where were the parents? No. Parents don't have any responsibility. Now it's down to the government to raise your children. Because that's a good idea. They say we've launched a consultation to gather views from the public and industry stakeholders to understand the impact and challenges of introducing a total ban on the advertising of these products online. Really? Or is this just one of those cherry-picking studies where they say, oh, it's definitely good because these things are definitely bad. Fat is bad. You can't have fat. Fat is terrible. I said, okay, hormones, like testosterone or estrogen, what are they again? They're fat. Right, so if you're not consuming enough fat, your brain's not going to work properly. Yeah. Why are we doing this again? I was like, oh no, it's different because it's like high cholesterol is bad. Is it really? Or is it difference between high and low, HDL and LDL? Was that actually the problem? And then when you talk about fat, is it then going to be saturated, unsaturated? And then you got your monos as well, and your trans. Yeah, different kind of trans fat. Where is the line going to be drawn? That they don't know. They do not know. So how about radical thought? I know, totally radical thought. But instead of that, you basically allow people to come to their own conclusions. Oh, I know, crazy thought. And you say, okay, we're going to allow you to make your studies and say what it is that you want to say. And over time, you're going to find successful diet programs and ideas which are going to be useful for people. And through that, people are going to be aware of what they should and should not be doing. As Paul Saladino, and of course the carnivore diet and the ketogenic diet is becoming more and more popular. Not because it needs to be pushed by a government, but because people are seeing results and they find that they're healthier for it. It's as simple as that. I mean, even veganism, which I condemn and do not condone whatsoever, people see positive results with that simply because they're cutting out sugar. So in that case, you don't really need to ban things. If you allow people to express themselves and sell their products online for their diets and fads, then over time you will find people going, oh, I see, that's what I should be doing instead. You go, yes, I should. Or if you want to make people even more accountable, then of course you remove that aspect from the NHS. Very straightforward. Otherwise, if you then try and intervene in taxing certain things more or less, you don't know what is having that effect, most likely. It is far too controversial and inconclusive. So at that point, maybe just lay off and say, we're just not going to cover that kind of thing. But in that case, that's going to be the downfall of the NHS, and I'm not stopping you. But that's about it for now. So as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think that, hey, yeah, children are very susceptible and we can't trust the parents, so we have to step in? Or do you think, no, we should be free to make our own decisions and also advertise as we want? Because if they're stopping these things here, again, on the grounds of health, then it's the slippery slope. Where's it going to stop? When are we then not allowed to advertise something because it could be damaging to health some way, one way or another? Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all the good stuff. It really does help this channel out a lot. And as always, until next time, have a good one.